The council chamber stood silent. 50 years had passed since the event that changed everything. 50 years since humanity closed its borders and turned its guns outward. 50 years since an entire species vanished from the galaxy. Ambassador Kelleth walked through the empty hallways. His footsteps echoed against the marble floors. The young diplomat carried a data tablet in his lower right hand. His species had forearms, which made carrying things easy, but today the tablet felt heavy. Inside it were secrets. Dark secrets that the galaxy had buried. Kelleth was fourth generation. His great-grandmother had seen the war, but she never spoke about it. Nobody did. The older species whispered about it in private. They called it many names. The purge, the silence, the human answer. But never in public. Never where humans could hear. The council room doors opened. Inside sat representatives from 20 different species. Birds with bright feathers, beings made of crystal, things that floated in tanks of gas. All of them waited. At the center table sat Dr. Sarah Chen. She was human. She was also very old, perhaps the oldest human still alive. Dr. Chen did not look up when Kelleth entered. Her hands were folded on the table. Her white hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed many wrinkles. Each one was a year of memory. Each one was a weight of history. "The vote is complete," Speaker Voth announced. His voice boomed through the chamber. "By majority decision, the sealed archives will be opened. The human war records will be made available for study." Several representatives shifted in their seats. Some looked nervous. Others looked curious. A few looked at Dr. Chen with what might have been fear or pity. It was hard to tell. Kelleth stepped forward. "Ambassador Chen," he said carefully, "my people believe the galaxy deserves to know the truth. We have lived with whispers and rumors for too long. The Zathran are gone, but we do not know why. We do not know what they did to deserve such punishment." Dr. Chen finally looked up. Her eyes were dark. They held something ancient in them, something cold. "You want to know?" she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard it. "You want to understand why humanity wiped out an entire species? Why we killed them all? Every last one? Men, women, children. Every single Zathran that existed?" The room became even quieter. Kelleth felt his breathing quicken. Something in her tone made his skin crawl, but he pressed on. "Yes. That is what we seek to understand." Dr. Chen stood slowly. Her bones cracked. She was ancient by human standards. Most humans died much younger. But she had lived. She had carried the burden of memory. She walked to the center of the chamber. Her footsteps were soft, but everyone watched her. "There is an AI," she said. "It guards the archives. It has kept the records sealed for 50 years. The galaxy voted to open them, so they will open. But I will tell you something first." She paused. Her eyes swept across every representative. "Once you see what is inside those files, you cannot unsee it. Once you know what the Zathran did, you will understand. And you will never look at humanity the same way again." Kelleth felt a chill run down his spine. All four of his arms trembled slightly. "What did they do?" he asked. Dr. Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen hell and survived. "They took our children," she said simply. "They came to our worlds. They came with promises of friendship. And then they took our children. Every colony world we had, every station, every ship. They took them all." Someone in the council gasped. Kelleth felt his stomach drop. Children. The most precious thing to any species. The future. The innocent. "I was 7 years old," Dr. Chen continued. Her voice remained steady. "I lived on New Brisbane. It was a beautiful world. Green fields. Blue oceans. 3 suns in the sky. My father was a teacher. My mother was a doctor. I had a little brother named Tommy. He was 4. She walked to the large window. Outside, stars glittered against the black of space. Humanity's warfleet hung in the distance. Even from here, Kelleth could see the massive ships. They had not moved in 50 years. They just watched, always watching. "The Zathran ships came in the morning," Dr. Chen said. "They were beautiful, silver and gold. They shimmered in the sunlight. We all came out to see them. First contact," they said. "Historic moment. The beginning of a friendship between species." Her hands pressed against the glass. Then they activated their machines. We did not know what was happening at first. Children started walking toward the ships. Just children, all of them. Like they were in a trance. My brother took my hand. He was smiling. He said the pretty lights were calling him. My mother grabbed him. She held him tight. But the machine was strong. It pulled him from her arms. It pulled all of them. Every child under the age of 12. 8 million people lived on New Brisbane. 2 million were children. The Zathran took them all. Kelleth heard crying in the council. Some of the representatives were weeping openly. He felt tears on his own face. He had not known. None of them had known. It happened on 47 worlds, Dr. Chen said. In 3 months, every human colony, every settlement, every ship with children aboard. They took them all. Do you know how many children that was? 93 million. 93 million human children. She turned back to face the council. Her face was hard as stone. We asked why. We begged them to return our children. Do you know what they said? They said it was for reproduction. They said the Zathran were a hive mind. They reproduced by consuming the neural patterns of sentient juveniles. They said human children had the finest patterns, the best flavors. They said we should be honored. They offered us compensation. They suggested we breed more. The silence in the room was complete, total. Kelleth could not breathe. His mind could not process what he had heard. They ate them. They ate the children. Earth's government sent one message to the Zathran, Dr. Chen said. One response to their offer. It was 3 words long. Count your stars. She walked back to her seat. She sat down slowly. 6 months later, humanity launched the largest armada ever built. 2,000 warships, 15,000 support vessels, 400 million soldiers, no diplomats, no negotiators, no mercy. The archives are open now, Dr. Chen finished. You can read the reports. You can watch the recordings. You can see what we did. But remember this. You asked for this truth. You wanted to know why humanity became monsters. She looked directly at Kelleth. We did not become monsters. We simply responded to monsters in the only language they would understand. The council session ended. Representatives filed out quietly. Kelleth stayed in his seat. He held his tablet tighter. Inside it was access to the archives. He could open them now. He could see everything, but suddenly he was not sure he wanted to. Dr. Chen's words echoed in his mind. Once you know, you cannot unknow. Once you see, you cannot unsee. His finger hovered over the screen. Outside the window, humanity's fleet continued its eternal watch. Waiting. Always waiting. Making sure nothing like the Zathran would ever rise again. Kelleth pressed the button. The archives opened, and he began to read the story of how humanity learned that some evils are too great to forgive, some crimes too terrible to punish with anything less than complete extinction. 50 years earlier, New Brisbane was a paradise. Captain Marcus Reeves remembered it clearly. He had grown up there. Green fields stretched to the horizon. Crystal-clear rivers ran through the valleys. 3 suns painted the sky in colors that Earth never saw, orange and purple and gold. Marcus had left his homeworld to join the colony defense force. It was mostly boring work. Pirates sometimes tried to steal cargo shipments. Occasionally there were disputes between mining operations. Nothing serious, nothing dangerous. The galaxy was at peace. It had been at peace for 300 years. His daughter Zara was 8 years old. She had her mother's red hair and his stubborn chin. She wanted to be a pilot like her father. She would sit in his lap and pretend to fly his ship. She would make engine noises and laugh when he pretended to crash. The day the Zathran came, Marcus was on patrol near the outer system. It was routine. Check the sensors. Watch for anomalies. Report back every 6 hours. His co-pilot was half asleep. They were talking about the upcoming Harvest Festival. Then the alarm screamed. Ships were entering the system. Big ships. Unknown signatures. Marcus's heart jumped. First contact. Real first contact. Not explorers or traders. A full diplomatic fleet. The ships were beautiful. They shimmered like liquid metal. Silver and gold mixed together. They moved in perfect formation. Graceful. Elegant. The Zathran sent greetings in perfect standard. Their translation was flawless. They spoke of peace, of friendship, of the wonders they would share with humanity. Dr. James Okonkwo was the first contact specialist on New Brisbane. Marcus watched the transmissions from his patrol ship. Dr. Okonkwo was excited. This was his life's work, the moment every xenologist dreamed of. A new species, a new culture, a new friend among the stars. The Zathran landed 3 days later. They held meetings. They shared technology. They spoke of joining the galactic community. Everything seemed perfect. Too perfect, Marcus would think later, but at the time everyone was celebrating. Humanity was no longer alone. It happened on the 4th day. Marcus was eating breakfast in the mess hall when the emergency channel lit up. Every frequency, every band screaming, parents screaming, children crying, and then silence, terrible silence. His ship raced back to New Brisbane. The journey took 6 hours. 6 hours of unanswered calls, 6 hours of static, 6 hours of growing dread that turned his stomach into knots. When they arrived, the Zathran ships were gone. The colony was intact. Buildings stood normal. Streets were empty but undamaged. Nothing was destroyed. Nothing was burned. But something was missing. Something vital. Something that made Marcus's blood run cold. The children, all of them, gone. Marcus landed in the main square. People wandered in a daze. Some were crying. Some were just staring, adults, teenagers, old people. But no children. Not a single one under 12 years old. He found his wife Sarah in their home. She was sitting on the floor of Zara's room, holding one of Zara's toys, a stuffed bear with button eyes. Sarah was not crying. She was beyond tears. Her eyes were empty. "They took her," Sarah whispered. "I tried to hold her. I held her so tight. But the light pulled her away. The Zathran light, it pulled all of them, like a magnet." They walked into the ship smiling. Zara was smiling Marcus. She did not understand. Marcus ran through the streets. He checked every building, every home, every school. The pattern was the same everywhere. Only children were gone. Only the young ones, babies, toddlers, elementary students. 2 million of them. Vanished. In the central plaza, he found something that made him stop. A handprint on the wall, small, child-sized, done in dried blood. Next to it, scratched into the concrete, was a single word. "Daddy." Marcus fell to his knees. His hands traced the letters. He knew that handwriting. Zara, his little girl. She had left him a message. A goodbye. She had fought. She had tried to stay. But they took her anyway. The reports came in through the day. New Brisbane was not alone. 46 other colonies. Every human world in settled space. The same thing everywhere. The Zathran had struck simultaneously, coordinated, planned. This was not random. This was deliberate. 3 days later, the Zathran sent a message. It was broadcast on all frequencies, directed at Earth, at the human government. The message was clear, polite even. It explained everything. The Zathran were a hive mind. They thought as one, felt as one, lived as one. But they were not born. They did not reproduce like other species. They grew by absorbing consciousness. Specifically, young consciousness, juvenile minds that were still forming, still flexible. The message explained the process, how they extracted neural patterns, how they integrated them into the collective, how each child added to their unity, made them smarter, stronger, more complete. It was not painful, they said. The children would live forever as part of something greater. Then came the part that made Marcus vomit. The Zathran stated that human children were special, superior. Their neural patterns were complex, rich, delicious. Yes, they used that word. Delicious. Like humanity had bred fine livestock, the message ended with an offer. Compensation for the taken children, technology, resources, trade agreements, and a suggestion. Humanity could breed more children. The Zathran would return every 10 years. A harvest. A partnership that would benefit both species. Marcus watched the message replay in the colony's command center. Around him, adults sat in shock. Some were crying. Some were screaming. Some just stared at the screens with dead eyes. Dr. Okonkwo had locked himself in his quarters. They found him 3 hours later. He had killed himself, left a note that said simply, "I brought them here." Earth's response came quickly. The entire human government held an emergency session. It lasted 4 hours. The transmission went out on every channel, every frequency, every band that could reach the Zathran. It was short. 3 words, count your stars. The Zathran did not understand at first. They sent another message asking for clarification. No response came. Earth went silent. Every human ship was recalled. Every station closed its docks. The borders sealed tight. Marcus stayed on New Brisbane. There was nothing else to do. No children to raise. No future to plan for. He volunteered for the Memorial Project. They were building a wall with all the names. 2 million names. Each one carved by hand. Each one a life stolen. He carved Zara's name himself. Zara Marie Reeves, age 8, loved flying. Loved laughing. Loved her father. The stone was cold under his fingers. He traced each letter carefully, perfectly. It was the last thing he could do for her. Sarah never spoke again. The doctors said it was trauma, selective mutism, but Marcus knew better. She had nothing left to say. The Zathran had taken the only thing that mattered. Their daughter, their future, their reason for living. 4 months passed. Then the message came. Every human received it simultaneously, on every device, every screen, every speaker. The message was simple. Report to your nearest recruitment center. Humanity was going to war. Marcus was one of the first to volunteer. So was nearly every adult who had lost a child. The recruitment centers were flooded. 400 million people signed up in the first week. 400 million humans who had one purpose, one goal, one burning need for justice. The training was brutal, efficient, fast. They did not have time for long courses. The instructors taught them to kill. Simple as that. How to operate weapons, how to fly ships, how to destroy an enemy completely, totally without mercy. Marcus excelled. He had always been good at flying. But now he had motivation, purpose. Every target he hit in simulation was a Zathran ship. Every enemy he destroyed was revenge for Zara. His scores were perfect. His dedication absolute. The galaxy watched humanity prepare for war. Other species sent messages, offers to mediate, to negotiate, to find peaceful solutions. Humanity ignored them all. There would be no peace, no mercy, no second chances. The Zathran had made their choice. Now humanity would make theirs. On the wall of his barracks, Marcus kept a picture of Zara. Her smiling face looked down at him every morning. Every night. A reminder, a purpose, a promise. He would make them pay. All of them. Every single Zathran that existed. He would count their stars. And he would put them out, one by one. Earth became a different planet. Within weeks, every factory converted to war production. Every shipyard worked around the clock. The noise never stopped. Hammering, welding, construction. The planet breathed fire and steel. Fleet Admiral Yukiko Tanaka stood in the command center. She was 53 years old, a career officer. She had fought pirates, smugglers, small conflicts on the frontier, but nothing like this. Nothing that required the complete mobilization of an entire species. The screens around her showed numbers, ship counts, weapon stockpiles, troop movements, 2,000 warships, 15,000 support vessels, 400 million soldiers. The largest military force ever assembled by any single species. And it was not enough. It would never be enough to balance the scales, Admiral. Her aide said quietly. The World Council is asking about rules of engagement. Tanaka did not look away from the screens. There are no rules. Totavar. Complete extinction. Every Zathran. Every world. Every ship. Every station. Nothing survives. The aide shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, the galactic community is concerned. They say we are violating every treaty, every convention of war. We withdrew from every treaty 3 months ago, Tanaka said. Her voice was ice. Tell the galactic community that humanity is no longer interested in their rules. Tell them to stay out of our way. Any ship that enters the war zone will be considered hostile. In another facility, General Pavel Volkov oversaw the ground forces. He was a big man, scarred face, broken nose. He had lost 2 grandchildren in the harvest, twins, 6 years old. Their names were tattooed on his forearms. He looked at them every morning. Show me the new weapons, he said to his staff. The scientists brought out tablets, files marked with red warning symbols, classified, forbidden. Technologies that had been banned for centuries. But the rules no longer mattered. Humanity had torn up the rule book and burned it. Relativistic kill vehicles, one scientist explained. Projectiles accelerated to 90% light speed. Impact force equal to nuclear weapons. No defense possible. Another scientist stepped forward. Stellar destabilizers. Target stars directly. Cause premature collapse. Entire solar systems destroyed. AI-driven hunter swarms, self-replicating. They hunt anything with Zathran biological markers. They do not stop until every target is eliminated. Volkov nodded at each presentation. No hesitation. No moral questions. These were tools. Necessary tools. Deploy them all, he said simply. Dr. Elizabeth Stone led the Weaponization Ethics Division. The title was ironic now. There was no ethics anymore. Just efficiency. Just results. She had created something special. Something terrible. She called it the Thanatos Protocol. The Zathran are a hive mind, she explained to the military command. They share consciousness, thoughts, feelings. Everything connects through a biological network. This is their strength, she paused. But it is also their weakness. Admiral Tanaka leaned forward. Explain. Dr. Stone brought up a hologram. It showed a Zathran brain structure. We developed a biological weapon, a virus. It targets their neural connection pathways. Once infected, it spreads through their hive mind network. Every Zathran connected to an infected one becomes infected. How long until death? Volkov asked. 72 hours, painful, very painful. The virus makes them feel everything. Every death. Every moment of suffering. Multiplied across their entire species. Someone in the room looked uncomfortable. A young officer. Doctor, is that not cruel? Do we want them to suffer? Dr. Stone turned to face him. Her eyes were hard. My daughter was 4 years old. They took her from the kindergarten on Mars Station. Do I want them to suffer? Yes. I want them to feel every second of what they did to our children. I want them to know fear. I want them to know pain. I want them to understand what they have done. The young officer said nothing more. Admiral Tanaka approved the protocol. We will use it when the time is right. When we reach their core worlds, let them see us coming. Let them prepare. Let them think they have a chance. And then we will unleash it. The galactic community tried to intervene. Ships from a dozen species approached Earth. They carried diplomats, peace offerings, pleas for restraint. Humanity sent a single message. Turn back or be destroyed. Most turned back. 3 ships did not. They were vaporized by defense platforms. No survivors. The galaxy learned its lesson. Intercepted communications from Zathran space showed confusion. Then concern. Then finally fear. They had fought 23 species before humanity. They had absorbed them all. Added them to the collective. Humans were young, soft, emotional. They would break easily, but the Zathran were wrong. Humanity was not breaking. Humanity was sharpening itself into a weapon. A weapon with one purpose. One target. One goal. 6 months after the harvest, the Armada was ready. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution. Around her, the fleet assembled. 2,000 warships, each one massive. Each one deadly. Each one crewed by people who had lost everything. She gave a speech before they launched. It was broadcast to every ship. Every soldier. Every human watching from home. It was not long. It was not complicated. It was simple truth. They took our children, she said. Her voice was steady, strong. They took them from their beds, from their schools, from their mother's arms. They took them and they consumed them. They ate our babies like food. They offered to let us breed more, to harvest us like cattle, she paused. The silence was total. Every eye was on her, every ear listening. The Zathran think we are weak. They think we will negotiate. They think we will forgive. They are wrong. We are not going to war. We are going to an extermination. We will ensure they never hunger again, because we will ensure they never exist again. When we are done, she continued, the Zathran will be a memory, a warning, a lesson to every species that looks at the stars. Touch our children and we will end you. Completely, totally, without mercy, without hesitation, without remorse, she raised her hand. For our children, for our future, for humanity. Launch the fleet. 2,000 ships activated their drives. The fleet moved as one. Perfect formation. Perfect coordination. They left Earth's solar system in silence. No fanfare. No celebration. This was not a glorious moment. This was a funeral march. A procession of the damned heading to deliver damnation. On Earth, parents gathered at memorials. They held pictures of their children. They whispered names. They prayed. Not for victory, not for glory, just for justice. For revenge. For the Zathran to understand what they had done. The fleet jumped into hyperspace. The journey to Zathran space would take 3 months. 3 months to prepare, 3 months to sharpen their hatred. 3 months before humanity showed the galaxy what happened when you pushed a peaceful species too far. Admiral Tanaka sat in her command chair. Around her neck hung a locket. Inside was a picture of her grandson, 5 years old, black hair, bright smile, taken from a playground on Luna. She opened the locket, looked at his face, closed it again. "Coming for you," she whispered. "We are all coming for you." In the darkness between stars, humanity's armada sailed toward war. Behind them, Earth dimmed in the distance. Ahead, the Zathran waited. They did not know what was coming. They could not imagine it. They had never faced an enemy that did not want territory or resources or power. They had never faced an enemy that simply wanted them dead. All of them. Forever. The countdown had begun. 3 months until contact. 3 months until the galaxy learned that some crimes cannot be forgiven, some evils cannot be tolerated, some sins can only be answered with extinction. The first Zathran system fell in 4 hours. Commander Liu Xiang led the hunter-killer squadron. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. The Zathran defense fleet was waiting. 50 capital ships, hundreds of smaller craft. They thought they were ready. They were not ready. Nothing could prepare them for what humanity brought. The Zathran sent a hail, an offer to negotiate. Liu ignored it. His orders were clear. Telecommunication, no mercy. He launched the first strike. Relativistic kill vehicles screamed through space at 90% light speed. The Zathran never saw them coming. 10 ships vaporized instantly. The battle lasted 3 hours. The Zathran fought well. They were experienced warriors. But humanity fought with something they had never faced before. Pure hatred, absolute conviction. Complete willingness to die if it meant taking the enemy with them. When the last Zathran ship exploded, Liu turned his attention to the planet below. 2 billion inhabitants, cities, farms, families, children. The Zathran broadcast desperate pleas. They offered surrender. They offered reparations. They offered anything. Liu activated the planetary bombardment systems. "For the children," he said quietly. Then he pressed the button. The planet burned. News of the attack spread through Zathran space instantly. Their hive mind carried the screams of 2 billion souls dying. Every Zathran in the galaxy felt it. Felt the burning. The terror. The absolute destruction. For the first time in their long history, the Zathran knew fear. The Zathran Prime Cluster met in emergency session. They were the leadership. The oldest minds in the collective. They had absorbed 23 species. They had fought countless wars. But they had never faced extinction. "We must surrender," one cluster suggested. "Offer them everything. Give back the surviving human young. Make peace, and will they accept?" Another asked. Silence, they all knew the answer. They felt it in every transmission from the human fleet. Every weapon fired. Every world burned. This was not war. This was extermination. The second system fell. Then the third. Humanity moved like a storm through Zathran space. They did not stop to occupy. Did not pause to negotiate. They simply destroyed everything. Ships, stations, habitats, worlds. Nothing was spared. The galactic community sent a coalition fleet to intervene. 12 species. 200 ships. They entered the war zone broadcasting peace symbols, offering to mediate, to stop the killing. Admiral Tanaka gave them one warning: turn back or be destroyed. The coalition fleet did not turn back. They believed humanity would not fire on allies, on friends. They were wrong. Humanity destroyed the entire coalition fleet in 40 minutes. 200 ships. 15,000 personnel, all dead. The message was clear. Stay away, this is not your war. This is not your business. Interfere and die. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity was not bluffing. They were not posturing. They would kill anyone who got in their way. The coalition withdrew. The Galactic Council condemned humanity's actions. Humanity did not respond. They were too busy counting stars. After the first 12 systems fell, the Zathran made a desperate move. They released all surviving human children. 2,400 of them. 93 million had been taken. Only 2,400 remained. The rest had been consumed, integrated, lost forever. The children were placed in escape pods, sent toward human lines. Each pod carried a message. Surrender terms. Peace offerings. The children for mercy. The human fleet recovered the pods. Medical teams examined the children. All were alive. All were physically healthy. But their minds were broken. They had seen things no child should see. They had felt the absorption process begin before being released. Some would never speak again. Some would never sleep without screaming. Admiral Tanaka visited the medical bay. She walked among the rescued children, looked into their empty eyes, held their trembling hands. Then she returned to her bridge. Her face was stone. Response to the Zathran surrender offer? Her communications officer asked. You cannot give back the dead, Tanaka said simply. Continue the operation. The fleet pushed deeper into Zathran territory. They reached the home cluster. 10 systems. 80 billion Zathran, the heart of their civilization, the center of their hive mind. If the collective had a soul, it lived here. Dr. Stone activated the Thanatos protocol. The virus was released on the primary world. A single canister. That was all it took. The Zathran breathed it in. Their biological network did the rest. The virus spread through the hive mind like fire, from one cluster to the next, from one world to another. The Zathran felt it happening, felt the poison spreading, felt their connections burning. They screamed. All of them. 80 billion souls screaming in perfect unison. The death took 72 hours. 3 days of agony. 3 days of understanding what they had done. 3 days of feeling what 93 million children had felt. The fear, the pain, the realization that they were being consumed by something larger. Human ground forces landed on the dying worlds. Sergeant John Keita led his platoon through empty cities. The Zathran were still dying, still screaming. Some begged for help. Some begged for forgiveness. Some begged for death to come faster. Keita's squad found a Zathran nursery, a place where they raised their young. On the walls were murals, beautiful artwork, detailed paintings, and among them were faces, human faces, children's faces, trophies from their harvest. Keita recognized one face, his niece Emma, 6 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, taken from Mars. Her face smiled down from the wall. A prize, a conquest, a meal, he wrote in his journal that night. We found murals in their nurseries. Our children's faces, trophies, decorations, they were proud of what they did. Proud of hunting our young. We burned it all. Every building, every city, every trace of their existence. Some people will call us monsters, let them. We know what real monsters look like. When the home cluster died, the virus had spread to every connected Zathran in the galaxy. Their hive mind became their death sentence. Every world felt the dying. Every colony, every ship, every individual connected to the network. The human fleet methodically visited every Zathran world. They checked for survivors, stragglers, isolated colonies that might have disconnected from the network. They found 3 small worlds, agricultural colonies, 200 million Zathran who had chosen isolation, who had rejected the hive mind, who were innocent. Admiral Tanaka stood on her bridge. The reports showed no hostile activity. These Zathran had not participated in the harvest. They had left the collective centuries ago. They were farmers, families, children. Orders, Admiral? Her tactical officer asked. Tanaka looked at the planets on her screen. Peaceful worlds. Innocent worlds. Worlds that had nothing to do with humanity's pain. She thought about mercy, about justice, about the difference between the two. Then she thought about Emma, and Zara, and Tommy, and 93 million others. Children who never got mercy, who never got a second chance. Deploy relativistic weapons, she ordered. Sterilize all 3 worlds, ma'am, the officer said quietly. These colonies were not involved. They are innocent. Tanaka turned to face him. So were our children. Fire the weapons. The last 3 Zathran worlds died in fire. The last of their species vanished from the universe. Complete extinction. Total eradication. Not a single cell remained. Humanity had counted their stars. And humanity had extinguished them all. Admiral Tanaka made her final report. Mission complete. Zathran species eliminated. Verified extinction. No survivors. Recommend deep scans of remaining territory to confirm absolute eradication. The fleet swept through former Zathran space for 3 more months. They checked every asteroid, Every moon, every derelict station, every escape pod. Anywhere a Zathran might hide, anywhere a single cell might survive, they found nothing. The Zathran were gone, erased, a species that had existed for 10,000 years, that had conquered 23 others, that had controlled a third of known space. Gone in 18 months. Wiped away by humanity's answer to their crime. The galaxy watched in silence. Fear, horror, understanding. Humanity had shown them something terrible, something necessary, something that could never be forgotten. Touch the children and face extinction. No warnings, no mercy, no survivors. Ambassador Kelleth sat in the council chamber. The archives were open before him on his tablet. Hours of footage, thousands of reports, images of burning worlds, recordings of final transmissions. Statistics that made his hands shake. Zathran species. Status extinct. Time from first contact to complete elimination. 18 months. Total casualties 132 billion. Military 12 billion. Civilian 120 billion. Survival rate 0.00%. Human casualties during the campaign. Military 847,000. Civilian 0. The numbers were stark, clear, brutal. Humanity had suffered almost no losses. This was not war. This was extermination, clinical, efficient, complete. Kelleth discovered something in the archives that made him stop, a file marked with 14 different species names. Not just humans. The Zathran had used others too, other species who had children, who had young ones with developing minds. The harvest had happened before. Humanity was not the first, just the first to respond with extinction. 2 species had been completely absorbed, their children taken, their cultures destroyed. They were gone now, extinct not by human hands, by Zathran hunger. 12 other species had suffered partial harvests, millions of their children taken. None ever returned. Kelleth felt sick. His people had been on that list. 80,000 years ago, before they had space travel. The Zathran had come to his homeworld. They had taken 20 million young. His species still told stories about the sky demons who stole children. He had thought they were myths. They were not. Dr. Chen entered the chamber. She walked slowly. Her cane tapped against the floor. She looked even older than before, like speaking the truth had aged her centuries. She sat down beside Kelleth without asking. "You have been reading," she said. Not a question. A statement. Kelleth nodded. He could not speak. His throat was tight. His eyes burned with tears. "Then you know," Dr. Chen continued. "You know we were not the first. You know the Zathran did this for thousands of years. You know they would have continued forever if we had not stopped them. But the innocent ones," Kelleth whispered, "the isolated colonies, the ones who left the hive mind, they did not participate. They were farmers, families. They had children of their own." Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "I know," she finally said. "I voted against killing them. I argued for mercy. I lost that vote. Badly. Do you want to know why?" Kelleth looked at her. "This old woman, this survivor, this keeper of terrible memories. Why?" "Because we could not risk it," she said. "Because one cell could rebuild. One survivor could reconnect to the hive mind. One Zathran could start it all over again, and we could not. Would not. Let that happen. We chose to become monsters to ensure no other species would ever face what we faced." "That is genocide," Kelleth said. The word felt heavy, ugly. "True. Yes," Dr. Chen agreed. "It is genocide. It is also justice. It is also protection. It is all of these things at once. We killed an entire species to save every future species. We became what we hated to ensure our hate would never be necessary again." She stood slowly, painfully. "You asked if it was justice or genocide. The answer is both. We are guilty. We know this. We accept this. But we are not sorry. We would do it again. We will do it again if necessary." Kelleth watched her leave. He sat alone with the archives, with the truth, with the understanding of what humanity had become, what they had been forced to become. He thought about his own children. 4 of them, young, innocent, safe. They were safe because humanity had made them safe, because humanity had drawn a line in the universe and said this far and no further, Because humanity had counted the Zathran stars and put them all out. Dr. Chen's real name was Zara Reeves. She was not just a survivor. She was patient zero. The first child recovered. The first to see what the Zathran did. The first to carry that trauma into adulthood. Her father Marcus was still alive. Still serving. Admiral Marcus Reeves, 108 years old. Commander of the Eternal Watch. The Eternal Watch was humanity's Armada. It had never stood down. 50 years of constant patrol. Always watching. Always ready. 30,000 ships. 500 million personnel. Rotating crews, but the mission never changed. Make sure it never happens again. Humanity refused all integration with the galactic community. They traded. They shared some technology. They were polite. But they never joined the council. Never signed treaties. Never trusted anyone. The harvest had taught them that trust was dangerous. That peace was temporary. That vigilance was the only guarantee of safety. Kelleth closed the archives. He had seen enough. More than enough. He understood now. Why humanity stayed separate. Why they kept their weapons ready. Why they watched the borders with such intensity. They were not paranoid. They were prepared. They had learned the hardest lesson any species could learn. The universe was not safe. Peace was not permanent. And some evils were too great to risk ever happening again. 50 light years away, Admiral Marcus Reeves stood on the bridge of the dreadnought, Never Again. The name was a promise. A reminder. A warning. He was ancient by any standard, but he refused to retire. Refused to rest. Refused to let anyone else carry this burden. His daughter Zara visited him once a month. They did not talk much. There was not much to say. She understood why he stayed. He understood what she carried. They were both prisoners of the harvest. Both survivors of humanity's darkest moment and its most necessary response. The sensors officer spoke up. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission. New contact. Unknown species. They are broadcasting greetings. They seem excited to meet us. First contact situation. Marcus watched the screens. Ships appeared on sensors. Small vessels. Dancing in formation. Celebrating their discovery of other intelligent life. Young, innocent, naive. Like humanity had once been. Like every species was before the universe taught them otherwise. His executive officer stepped forward. Alert status, sir? Marcus watched the new species. Watched their joy. Their celebration. Part of him remembered when humanity had been like that. Full of hope. Full of trust. Full of belief in a benevolent universe. That part of him had died in the plaza on New Brisbane. Next to a small bloody handprint that spelled out Daddy. Green, he said finally. But launch reconnaissance drones. Full spectrum surveillance. I want their biology. Their culture. Their ethics. Their treatment of young. Everything. Sir, his XO said quietly. They are just celebrating first contact. They look harmless. Marcus turned to face him. His eyes were hard, ancient, filled with knowledge no person should have to carry. That is what we thought too, Commander. That is what we always think. The Zathran came in peace. They came with friendship. They came with smiles. He looked back at the screens, at the dancing ships, at the innocent joy. Deploy the drones. Monitor everything. And if they show any interest in our children, any at all, he paused. Count their stars. The bridge crew moved efficiently. Drones launched. Sensors activated. The reconnaissance began. This was humanity now. Forever watching. Forever ready. Forever remembering what happened when they trusted too much. When they believed too easily. When they thought the universe was safe. The new species continued their celebration. Unaware they were being studied. Analyzed. Measured against a standard they did not know existed. The standard was simple. Do you harm children? Do you hunt the young? Do you take what is most precious? If the answer was yes, humanity would respond. Not with warnings. Not with negotiations. Not with mercy. Just extinction. Clean. Complete. Absolute. The Zathran were gone, but their lesson remained. A lesson written in fire across empty space. A lesson the galaxy had learned and would never forget. Touch the children and humanity will end you. Your species. Your culture. Your history. All of it. Gone. As if you never existed. Admiral Reeves sat in his command chair. Around him the bridge hummed with activity. Outside the window the fleet hung in perfect formation. 30,000 ships, all watching, all waiting, all ready. The Armada never slept. The Armada never forgot. The Armada never forgave. Humanity had paid the ultimate price to learn the universe's darkest truth. That evil exists, that it does not negotiate, that it does not stop unless you make it stop. Permanently, completely. Without hesitation or doubt, some called them monsters. Some called them heroes. Some called them necessary. The humans did not care what they were called. They knew what they had done. They knew what they had become. They knew the cost, and they had paid it willingly, because somewhere in the universe there were children sleeping safely. Human children. Alien children. All children. Sleeping peacefully because humanity stood watch. Because humanity had drawn a line. Because humanity had shown what happened when that line was crossed. The price was high. The cost was terrible. But the alternative was unthinkable. To live in a universe where the Zathran still hunted, still harvested, still consumed the young and innocent. That was a universe humanity could not accept, would not accept. So they ended it. Completely. Forever. And they stood guard to make sure nothing like it ever rose again. Admiral Marcus Reeves closed his eyes. He saw his daughter's handprint. That bloody message left on a wall 50 years ago. Daddy. She had called for him. He had not been there. But he was here now. Would always